Erev Tov, everyone. Approximately 170 years ago, the week of this parsha, there occurred one of the great Dinei Torah in the history of the yeshiva world. The yeshiva in Volozhin was founded in 1813 by Reb Chaim Volozhiner, Reb Chaim Rabinowitz, and he served as its head and as the Rav in Volozhin until his death. In the 1830s, his son, Rabbi Volozhiner, succeeded him both as the head of the yeshiva and as the head, as the Rav in town. Rabbi Yitzchak had no sons. He had two daughters. In the yeshiva world, as is in the general world, succession is always a problem. So his oldest son-in-law was a great Talmid Chacham and was well known. His youngest son-in-law was the Netziv in the Tzvi Yehuda of Berlin, who was at that time very young. He got married. They married her when he was 14 and she was 12. So that's a good idea because then you grow up together, you know. And he spent the next 7 years composing one of the great Svarim, the Shiltas of Achoy Gon. So his commentary to it, the Hamik Sheila, he wrote during that 7-year period, and he was little known, especially in comparison to his older brother-in-law. So when Rabbi Yitzchak passed away in the 1850s, so then the question of succession arose. Now, the Volozhiner Yeshiva always had the Rosh Yeshiva and then the chief Maggid Shiur, who said the Shiur. So the Rosh Yeshiva said the Shiur 3 days a week, and the Maggid Shiur said the Shiur the other 3 days a week, and Shabbos they chazer, Shabbos they reviewed. So when Reb Itzela was the Rosh Yeshiva, the Maggid Shiur was Reb Yosef Dov Halevi Soloveitchik, the Beis Halevi. And he was a well-known genius, as the Soloveitchiks have that in their DNA. And he was very popular amongst the Bochurim. He had a different style than did Rabbi Yitzchak. And he was a direct grandson of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. In other words, he was in the family. His mother was a daughter of Reb Chaim. So when Rabbi Yitzchak passed away, there was a discussion, naturally, who's going to succeed. So at first, the older son-in-law succeeded, but tragically passed away within a year. And then the question was open again. Meanwhile, the yeshiva began to splinter. There were 2 or 3 other relatives that delivered the shiurim in Volozhin on their own. But the main contest now was between the Netziv of Volozhin and between Rabbi Yoshe Ber, who should be the Rosh Yeshiva. So they both agreed that they would have a din Torah. And the Dayanim for the din Torah were Reb David Tevel Minsker, who was the Nachlas David, who was the Talmud Muvak of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. Rabbi Skolchonon was a Dayan. He was then the Rav in the Vardok before he went to Kovna. And one of the Dayanim was the Magid of Vilna, Rabbi Zev Wolf. So they came, it was Parshat Vayeshev, and they came to the yeshiva for the din Torah to hear each side. So the Magid, before they had the din Torah, got up and he said as follows. He says, usually in the din Torah, we will be able to determine which side, so to speak, has the most merit to it, and we'll decide accordingly. He said, we find that in the Chumash. When all the problems that exist in Chumash Bereshis, so there's Cain and Hevel, so we say that Cain was wrong. And there's Noach and the rest of the people, Noach was right. And we say that Avraham and Nochor, so Avraham is right and he's wrong. And then we have Yitzchak and Esau. So Yitzchak is right and Esau is wrong. And then we have Yaakov and Esau, I'm sorry, Yitzchak and Ishmael. Yaakov and Esau, Yaakov is right. So he said, until now, it's pretty clear. The Torah allows it to sort itself out clearly as to why the succession went the way it went. The Jewish people are built on Ishtom Yoshev Oholim. They're not built on Malchar B'chotichya. He says, but now we come to the Parsha Vayeshev, where you have Yosef HaTzadik and you have the Shiftei Korah. How can you pick between the two? Here it no longer is clear. So he said, this is the type of din Torah that we have now, that whatever we decide, it won't be clear. Because on one side we have Rabbi Yoshe Ber, and on the other side we have the Netziv. So how can you choose between the two? At the end of the din Torah was that they chose the Netziv, and Rabbi Yoshe Ber Soloveitchik left the yeshiva, and he became the Rav in Slutsk, and then he became the Rav in Brisk. And the families, in order to show that there were no hard feelings, so the Netziv's granddaughter married Reb Chaim Soloveitchik, who was Rabbi Yoshe Ber's son. So they became mechatonim. And probably there's no better way to get even than to do that. And so that became, till today, the Beis Harav. It's called the family of Reb Chaim Volozhiner. So it's the Soloveitchiks and the Berlins and the Shapiros, all of them, the Riffs, all of them are in it. They're all descended from Reb Chaim in one way or another. So this is an introduction to our parsha. And the Torah is going to go out of its way, and the Meforshim really go out of their way to try and give us a balanced picture here of what happened. Who's right? Vayove Yosef as the Bosam Royal Aviem. Yosef came to Yaakov and he told him, these brothers of mine, they eat non-kosher, they behave wrongly. You have to do something about it. You're not going to be able to build the Jewish people out of them. They said, on the other hand, this child, this 17-year-old brother of ours, is an existential threat to us. He has dreams of grandeur. Yaakov will say, Amoshel Timshel. They will say, Amoshel Timshel, what, do you want to rule over us? Who gave you all of these rights? And he certainly aggravates the situation. He throws fuel on the fire, tells him another dream. And you have here a division that remained within the Jewish people for centuries. So the Torah said, for instance, "V'lo yochlu echav dabro l'shalom." The brothers could not speak to him. Shalom here means either in a peaceful manner or in order to bring about peace. They couldn't stomach the child, couldn't deal with him. So you'll know, so on one hand, that's a very strong statement. And we would say that that's a negative statement regarding the brothers. You have a brother and you can't talk to him. Even still, Rashi says that the Torah is telling us a compliment about the brothers. They were not hypocritical. They didn't want to make nice to him when in their hearts they hated him. And they felt that eventually they felt they had to remove him. So the Torah and the Meforshim here tried to give us a picture that we can understand, try and understand it from both sides. And we'll see within the next 4 parshas how this plays out. The Torah describes for us the feelings of the brother, and the Torah describes for us the feelings of Yosef. And all of this is part of the heavenly plan to bring the Jewish people down to Egypt and to fulfill the prophecy that was given to Avraham Avinu at the Brit Ben Abtarim. And this would be the furnace which annealed the Jewish people and made them into a people. But the Torah describes it to us in human terms. What did Yosef think? And what did the brothers think? And each one felt very justified. To a certain extent, they did not see the other side of the story. Yosef doesn't see how his behavior antagonizes his brothers, and the brothers don't see that Yosef is special and they have to treat him in a special way. So therefore, these parshas, most of them Meforshim say, signal whatever happens to the Jewish people in any dispute. It's the forerunner of all disputes. So eventually, Yosef will become Malchus Yisrael, and Yehuda will become Malchus of David HaMelech, Malchus Yehuda. Eventually, the split is reflected on the ground. The people are split, but the origins for it lie in this original misunderstanding between them and their inability to see the other point, to see the other person's ideas, and to think that only they were correct. If you think that you're the only one that's correct, then it's permissible to do things that later you will regret, which is what happens to the brothers, but it happens to Yosef also. So this background is necessary for us to approach the Parsha and to have some insight into what the Torah is teaching us. Rabbi Chananya ben Akash Omer Ratzah HaKadosh Baruch Hu L'Zakos Es Yisrael L'Fichach Yirba Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Adonai